Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show today. My name is Mike Clark, aka the Rebel Preacher, with Amar Russell here with us today. Welcome to the show, Amar. How you doing today?
Wonderful, brother. Wonderful.
Very
Beautiful.
good. Well, today's video, we're doing a video today, uh, just discussing some things that in some of my videos, and I'm not a great communicator, and sometimes I'm thinking on a different level than other people, and that's not a higher or lower. It's not supposed to be anything wrong or good about it, but sometimes communication gets lost in translations. And Amar's going to work. We're going to work today and work through this thing of understanding where we're at and what we mean and what we understand when we're talking about. And I'm going to go ahead and start it off saying some of the things that, and I've had this in the problem with the past too, trying to explain how I feel with some people. This has been about a year and a half ago, and they don't understand when I say, Amar, that I am done with trying to achieve success or whatever within the realm that we're in now. And when I say that, I'm certainly not saying that I just want to quit my job and go into the woods, sell my house, get rid of my family, and go live in the trees or nothing like that. What I'm trying to say is I'm finding that this life that we're living in now does not no longer gives me the fulfillment. That don't mean I don't love my family. It don't mean I don't love my wife. It don't mean I don't love my children and my job and everything like that. Spiritually, I am going to a different level, and whether that's good or bad to people, it's immaterial. But the fact of the matter is what is in this round today no longer satisfies me. Dogma, religion, um, even holy books. I'm so sick of. I mean, and here we go. I'm saying this, and I might get criticized for it, but I'm so sick of it because, like you, I have been initiated Dead Sea Scrolls, Judaism, Christianity, all of these different things. But I'm at a point in my life where I'm seeking above these things. And when I say this, I'm not saying anyone is wrong. I'm not saying I have no fingers to point, but that's just where I'm at, Amar. So
Well,
that's where we'll start it off at right there.
beautiful. Yeah, everybody is at their own place in time.
Right.
In time, yeah, everyone's kind of like at a different stage, at a different level, because that's the nature of time. In time, there are stages, there are levels of perception. And when we talk about levels, we're talking about perceptual levels because in the absolute truth of things, there is no levels. We
No.
know there's
No.
just the one bright self shining bright.
Right.
And that's what all the enlightened sages tell us. And this is, of course, can be our own experience as well. And this is another thing I want to talk about. You can experience the absolute God. And once you have that experience of the absolute truth of God, then you start to see what's not true. So you see, not everybody's had that experience, a gnosis of a real world. If you have a gnosis of the higher planes of the real world, then you suddenly can identify the lower planes in the lower world as being corrupt, false, and it's like the perceptual levels. You talked about levels. Um, Perception itself is at many different levels. And so if you're at one level of consciousness, that is a level of perception, because that's all a level of consciousness is. If you're at one level of perception, it's very hard to convince another brother that's on a different level of perception. I mean, you both got two different lenses on. You're wearing two different kind of glasses. So when communicating with each other, I think it's always important to communicate with love
Right.
because that transcends all these levels.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another thing too is some of the things I said also, which just in case Job also said the same things too, about talking about being born and tired of the experiences that we're having now. And in any way, that's not a negative. I like I said again, I love this life. I love things within this realm that we're in. And I'm thankful for the experiences that I've been through in the past. I'm thankful for the other views that I've had because it's built me who I am today. But of course, I don't wish I'd never been born. That's ridiculous because if I hadn't had a chance to be born, I wouldn't have a chance to go through this exercise that we're in and to learn and to grow closer to that consciousness and to that creator. So of course, I'm happy that I'm here. I mean, sometimes I'm not, but overall, I'm glad for that experience to have this chance again. I've read some other things where it says that sometimes souls have to wait almost 30 years before they get put back into this
Yep.
thing again.
Yep.
And so I'm glad that my time came, but I'm also thankful and hopeful that I break this wheel of reincarnation that we're in, that I don't have to come back to this thing. But that's not a negative to my birth. So I just want to state that also.
And Rebel Preacher and I've been getting hated on because we talk about the negativity of the world pole. That is the negative pole of creation. There's an inversion here. No one can deny this. I mean, God, in light, there is no death. I think we all would agree. And of course, but in this dimension here, in this world, we see death.
Right.
In heaven, there's no guilt, and here it's all guilt and fear, and so all these, the opposite of heaven is what we're experiencing here.
Absolutely.
And so whenever we kind of expose that and say that we want to end that cycle of suffering, people all of a sudden think, well, you're trying to escape. You're trying to get out of the earth plane in order to escape, and you're giving no meaning here and no value here. But I want to read you what the great sage Swamiji says from the Sant Mat tradition, the way of the Buddha Messiahs, which
Right.
is the way I've always taught and will continue to teach. He says, think about this. Swamiji is reminding us that it is a good fortune to have been given human birth. It's good fortune to have been given human birth. But then he tells us what it is for. What is the human birth for? Human birth is for the process of liberation. If you were stuck in some ethereal plane for eons, there would be no time for you to have this classroom experience. Only when you come fully all the way down into material existence do you have a classroom, a playground, where you can go through your process and attain your liberation and your enlightenment here while in a body. So I'm not against the human body and certainly don't want to escape. I want to experience everything fully here in God, in light, attain my liberation, and then end that cycle. You see, it's both. Why can't it be both? See,
right.
brother?
Right.
Why can't this world be a hellish nightmare, which it is when you lose your loved ones and when your son dies, like what happened for myself, and your parents are both dead and gone? I mean, that's not a good thing,
No.
And why would you not want to end that,
Right.
know? But at the same time, you want to include God in all your relationships, in the love you share. It's both. You transcend this dimension, but include all of your relationships here with you. Take it all with you, So,
well, I think what you said about this being a classroom is a perfect example. I was not one who liked going to school. I did not like going to school at all growing up. But I learned, I forced myself, and I went and I learned, and thank God that's where I am today, is I have understanding from these classrooms that I went through, and it's helped me. The same thing is true here. When I say, that you're right, I've lost my sister, I've lost my dad. I had a lot of loss, and it doesn't go well when you're talking about a God of ultimate love upon this earth, and then things like this happen, and you cannot. I don't care who you are, you cannot piece that together. And I hate the term. You just have to leave it in the hands of the Lord and stuff like that. No, 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 no. I don't believe that. So you're right. These are experiences that I've learned, but in the same time, it's not an escape that I want out of this world. Although I do want consciously and meditating outside of this world. That's where my joy comes from now, is the meditation and the other realms, and and projection and stuff like that. It's not in this realm now, and that doesn't mean that I hate the realm that I'm living in. It just means there's a better place that I have experienced in the past couple of weeks that I wouldn't trade for anything. I wouldn't trade for any of this, of this earthly plane that we have now. So I can actually live here with my feet upon this earth and this plane that we're in, yet spiritually learn the process, and this is morbid for people, but of dying, of leaving now, learning what to do when we pass away, how to go, for if not, I'll be back in this plane again. And I don't want to come back. I don't want to come back.
So what I hear you what I hear you saying is you want to utilize this physical birth, this incarnation, for the greater process of ending suffering for once and for all.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
right.
And it
That's right.
doesn't mean I don't want to escape. I'm not expecting a rapture. I'm not
Yeah,
expecting a chariot of God to come down and pick me up. It's going to come from my efforts of meditation and letting go of this realm that we're living in. Although I still live here, it's like the story of the Buddha. The Buddha was sheltered in this world, and he was, inside the kingdom, never allowed to go out. He was spoiled. He was going to be a king, and then he stepped out into this realm, and and I'm giving a short version of the story. But when he saw sickness and death, it totally gave him a revolution that he had to find out why this was happening and what to do about it. And this is the same thing as we're true now. Yes, we're sheltered in this. We're sheltered in this reality when we're young. We're enjoying the lustful youth of sex and party and all this stuff. But there comes a time of maturity when we got to say, this is not going to be a permanent plane that I'm living in. I'm going to go. I'm going to leave one way or another. And we
yeah.
need to start. We need to start learning to do that now, instead of
That's
waiting and getting trapped in that soul trap where we come right back and have to learn this thing again.
yeah, yeah. And whatever happened to the master? Who was that said, "My kingdom is not of this world"?
That was Jesus.
Exactly. So, and what's wrong with Jesus? I mean, when did Jesus become not a you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Someone you didn't want to listen to. It's like
absolutely,
when
absolutely.
when these people write me and tell me that I'm rejecting the world and I'm turning away from the world, I'm trying to escape from the world. It's like, my God, didn't and you read the Bible every day, didn't the scriptures tell you that his kingdom is not of this world?
He did
So
say that. He
you
did
gave
say it.
you gave the example of Buddha. So we have Buddha totally seeing the horrible nature of this world matrix. Buddha said, "I've had enough." He said, "This is crazy." And he went and sat under the Bodhi tree after he had his first awakening to the world of pain and death.
Right.
What's wrong with Buddha? Why is Buddha now considered someone we don't use as a role model anymore? And what
Well,
about yoga? Yoga. What about yoga? Yoga is about going back union with God, right?
right.
What happened to that? Yet all these yoga schools are teaching self-help and exercise and things like that, which subsequently my wife is trying to bring back that spiritual awakening in there, because the whole purpose of yoga is joining back with God and ending the vicious cycle of birth and death. So
Right.
what happened to Jesus? Why not listen to Jesus anymore? Did he not tell us that the story of the prodigal son, who had left the father's house and went and ate with the slop of the pigs and lived in disgusting conditions? And he's given this example. This is what happened. We came down into this disgusting slop of a world where everybody grows old, gets sick, and dies. And
Yeah.
you have to kill other animals to eat. You have to kill to eat. Animals have to kill animals. And I mean, look, man, just observe nature. That it's not God. That's not God. And you will never accuse God of that to me, because a
Right.
lot of people, yeah, they tell me that God created this beautiful earth the way it is. And I'm like, well, you're telling me God is a murderer, a killer. And no, you'll never convince me that God is a killer, a
Right.
murderer.
Right.
So Jesus said the prodigal son went and he came to himself.
Right.
He said, "I do not want this world anymore that I'm in." And he ran back to the father's house. This is the parable.
Right.
This is for us. And there's not a sage or an enlightened teacher on this earth that does not teach the same thing. The science of the soul. The science of the soul is called liberation. Liberation from what?
Right.
Liberation from the cycle of birth and death.
Right.
That's the whole point. So, it's kind of mute to argue with anybody about this, because anyone that's in that perception that God created this beautiful earth plane so that they could come here and grow old and die repeatedly, there's nothing going to penetrate that but an experience.
Right. Right.
They're going to have an experience. See,
Right.
See, I've attained all the degrees in master masonship and through the Masonic order. I went all the way through the Surat Shab yoga tradition and got initiated into those higher planes with my teacher, my guru. So I have had some experience of those higher worlds, and it's way above the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah only goes up to a certain plane and it stops.
Right.
Above that, the higher aeons or the divine worlds, the spiritual heavens from which we came. I have experienced this. You can't take that experience away from Amor.
Right.
So when I teach, I have to speak from that experience. So when someone comes to me and says, no, this is God's will that we suffer, and reincarnation is God's creation and God's beautiful trap, it's like, no. See, when you've had a gnosis of the real world, then the lower worlds become obvious. It's not God. It's not God's creation at all. It's yours.
Well, you're right about Kabbalah also, because it teaches that the top 3 sephirotes are not for us. That it's a situation that we are not to, we're not even able to approach that. But we know that that's not true through the teachings of yoga and stuff like that. I mean, it may take time and to learn to do this. But the fact of the matter is, and I'm thinking about what you were saying about Jesus, but Jesus even told them, he says, look, this world that you're in, you're of your father, the devil. You're not following me. You don't know who I am because you're following well, what's he saying? He's saying that the guy in the Gnostic books clearly say this, that the Dimmer, like you said earlier, we were talking before this. I can't say that, God, I don't think that they created the leaves and the beauty of stuff like that. But the blueprint that we have as far as life, suffering, and death and things of that nature, it does not line in effect with what God, who my perception of God is, the loving creator. Now, so to me, when Jesus told them that, he told the Jews this, the quote, chosen people, he says, your father is the devil. He said, and he told them that. So I mean, he says that. And then it's like I said, in some of the Gnostic books, I can't remember the name of one of them, but Adam and Eve were created. And then the true God came in the next chapter, and they were like, we don't know who you are. We perceive love from you. We perceive something different from the God that created us. So it's all in the books. People want to say, they want to talk these holy books and stuff like that. Obviously, they're not reading them. Or if they were, they would know what we're trying to say here, because we're certainly not trying to say anything that's not in these books, to be honest with you.
That's right. If you're defending this world, you haven't even begun the spiritual path.
No,
you have not. You have not. You're on another path entirely, which is more philosophical, kind of mental path. You're not even on the spiritual path. The spiritual path goes beyond the mind.
Right.
The spiritual, Kabbalah only goes up to get you out of the mind right there. At that very top of that kether, that's just above the world mind.
Right.
There are planes called the higher aeons above that we must experience and appropriate in our life. But if you're defending the world below, the negative end of the pole, then you hadn't even had a Gnostic revelation yet.
Right.
You know
what about Paul talking about going to the 7th heaven? What do you think he's talking about?
Right, exactly. And then he came back, blinding light.
Yes.
And he began preaching the word, the word, the Shab.
Right. So the thing is we're not teaching heretical or anything, but I think it's just the point that we're able to take these books and pull the light from them. Not that we're better than anyone else, but our experiences back what we're trying to say here in this video.
I just did a video. Here's a book called The Gnostic Catechism, and it's by Stephen Holler, which is a real Gnostic. I mean, like, there are people that say they're Gnostic, and then there are real Gnostics. Stephen Holler's he's like the Manly P. Hall of Gnosticism.
That's pretty high.
He's got a whole chapter in here on creation and how it came about. And of course, it aligns perfectly with the great sages of the Radha Swamis, of the early Zoroastrian, and Mani. What about Manichaeanism? The Manis.
There you go.
Yes. All of these Gnostics. Yes. And of course, again, don't forget Buddha, because Buddha was a Gnostic.
Right.
And they all renounced the world for the higher light.
Right.
That's right.
Even the Essenes, even the Nazarene Essenes did the same thing. When we read their books, we're reading the scroll of Melchizedek these are not from the earthly plane from what we understand. They're seeing it from another level completely than we are.
From another level.
Yes.
Exactly. Like I had on my chart, if you had that chart, we viewed it in our last video in our Zoom class on Howdy Mikowski.
Yes.
Howdy Mikowski gets a lot of flack for exposing this world.
He does.
And all he's doing is saying, hey, isn't this Plato's cave? Why don't we get out of the cave?
Right.
And it offends a lot of people. Can you believe it?
I do. I do believe it because we get it too.
Why would anyone want to grow old, get sick, and die here and continue the process? And of course, you know, if you accuse God of that, again, you're accusing God of something that's not in line with God's nature. See,
Right.
the nature of God is eternal love.
Right.
The nature of God is eternal life.
Right.
The nature of this world is the opposite.
Right.
So God does not create opposites.
Right.
God only creates like himself. And when you have a revelation of God and you've had a direct union experience with God in a moment of inner samadhi, then you know for a fact that God is pure love, pure light, pure glory.
Right.
And there's no way God would ever create a world of death. No way.
Well, you know, to back up some other things we were talking about earlier, when you look at the Kabbalah, which I know a lot of people say it's not Jewish or whatever like that, the whole concept behind that is tikkun olam, which is to fix this world. And as you mentioned before, this is the only religion that teaches that. All the other ones are teaching, like Christianity and Islam are teaching, we're getting out of this thing. That is the only religion that teaches that we've got to fix this world. My opinion is they say that to keep you occupied, that you don't find escape, that you stay trapped in the concept of trying to fix something because you ain't fixed yourself first.
My God. And isn't the Zionism right now trying to take over the whole world, and they're behind every media, every Hollywood, everything right now. They're going to create this one world utopia from Zion. That's the whole plan.
Right.
Now, these are the people that have the Kabbalah.
Right.
You know, and so the Kabbalah, if you notice, it's all the demiurge.
Right.
From the bottom of Kabbalah to the top of Kabbalah is all in the realm of the demiurge.
Right.
And here's why I say that, because it only goes up to the world mind. The world mind is the demiurge.
Right.
Even in Freemasonry, they tell you in the third degree that the great architect of the universe, which the Kabbalistic initiation is in the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry.
Right.
You go from the physical to the astral to the mental. And then from the mental, you meet the great architect of the universe, which is demiurge. Because that's what demiurge means, great architect of the universe. That's what it means.
Right.
And this is the lower aeons. And what they're not telling you, you think the Jewish conspirators are going to give you the true Kabbalah? There's worlds above that. You only have half of that Kabbalah. You see what I'm saying? The Kabbalah tree is not complete. No. What they call an Ein Sof is the great void in the Sarat Shab yoga tradition. And that great void is just the last barrier to enlightenment. That great void is just right out of the mind. When you get out of the world mind, now you're out of the demiurgic planes, and now you can experience higher worlds, real worlds. And so, anything to do with the mind, it has to do with the demiurgic cosmology.
Well, if it wasn't for the internet, we wouldn't know anything. That it'd still be kept closed, most of the Kabbalistic understanding, because it was kept silent for years. And when the internet came on the scene and it no longer could be held back again, that's when it was opened up to other people to come in. But like you said, even in that, you're only seeing a portion of what's going on there. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it's still concealed, and they'll still tell you have to be 30, 40 years old before you can truly understand all of this and all of this thing. So it is a control mechanism. But the fact that, like you said, it's only dealing with this down anyway. It's not dealing with outside of it.
It's the physical universe.
Right.
The whole Kabbalistic tree is physical, mental and physical.
Right.
Now, what it's saying, though, is that God, the God that actually is at the top of that Kabbalistic tree is not the same gods that are doing the creating below, the Elohims and the Yahwehs and the Jehovahs. No. They're down below on that Kabbalistic tree. They're below.
Right.
So even in Kabbalah, you have the idea of a demiurge.
Right. Well, of course you do. Because like we said before in a video in the past, the insult, the very top, he don't even know what's going on down here. I mean, he is in a bliss. He is in a place that he cannot even comprehend the suffering and stuff like that because it's not his nature. And I'm
Right.
not saying so everything below that is the demiurge that is controlling and doing what they do to us is what they're
Well,
doing.
yeah. And I got one for you. And there are some Christians that actually get this, that when you're born into the physical world, you're born into Satan's kingdom.
Right.
And this is why you have to be born again.
Right.
Otherwise you wouldn't need to be born again,
Right.
I mean, why would you need to be born again if the birth here is perfect?
Right. You wouldn't.
Come on,
Right. Right.
And so, yeah. And so this is actually, when you're born into this world, you're born into Satan's kingdom, because everything below the world mind in manifest creation is ruled and governed by the demiurge. That is,
right.
Now the almighty prime creator at the top, way, way beyond or more subtler than all these regions, obviously has commissioned the demiurge to do his job.
Right. No doubt. No doubt.
Jehovah has its function.
Right.
It rewards you if you're good and it punishes you if you're evil. That's the law of karma.
Right.
Which is
what Jehovah, karmic realm. That's the karmic realm. If you joined us on Sunday night, you know all this. But that is the realm right there that we're dealing in. And if we never escape this realm, how are we ever going to find freedom if we stay within the realm that we're living in?
That's it. And instead of arguing with Amor Russell, why don't you just argue with Buddha or Manny or Zoroaster or even Jesus? Or, hey, what about Apostle Paul? Argue with him too, who said, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world."
That's right. He did say that. And there's a lot of Gnostic thought, Amar, that says that Paul never even understood this Christianity that we know today, that he was initiated in a Gnostic understanding, in the Christos that he's talking about.
Yeah,
may not have even been the historical Jesus Christ himself. He's talking about what we're talking about now. Whether there's a historical, it does not matter. The fact is Paul was speaking on something totally different.
That Paul should not even be in the rest of that Bible. Should not even be with Paul's letters. It's two different things.
I think so.
Micron, actually, this is called the Aposticon.
Okay.
By, how do you say his name? Micron, the Gnostic. Macron, M-A-R-C-I-O.
Oh, it's Marcion.
Marcion. That's how you say
it. That's it.
This is the very first Bible.
Yep.
This is Jason over at Anthrax, who gives this Similican.
Right.
He turned me on to this book. And
I watched him too.
Yeah. He's really good,
Yeah.
And I tell you, but this book is actually the first New Testament.
Right.
And it's actually just Paul's letters. That's all it is. And because of this, they had to put together a substitute Bible. So that's where you get your other Bible, the King James and all that.
Right.
See, that's the demiurge's version of the Bible. I'm sorry, Christians, but it's true. Who do you think put that Bible together and put it in every hotel room for you to read it?
Right.
The same people that's running this psyop on you today are the ones that did it.
Right.
They want to mix the Old Testament with the New Testament and confuse you.
Right.
And is that not what happened? We got Christians running around today wanting a world government with Zionist Christendom.
Right. There is such thing too.
And that comes from the King James studying the Bible, because they you can't include the Old Testament with the New Testament. They're two different worlds.
Two different worlds altogether, two different cosmic, it's two different altogether. There's two different books. And to me, of course, there's two different gods and presence there. Within the Old Testament, we probably in the Old Testament alone, we got like 4 different gods. And then don't forget God's wife, if you want to look at it also, that we had to do away with. So the whole thing has been changed to make this 166 book or 77, 70, whatever you want to be. It had to be compromised to make it all work together. And then you really have to have problems trying to make this thing work. To me, I had to give it up. I had to give it up.
And why do you have to think so hard for a spiritual text? Why can't you just pick up a teaching from Buddha and go home? I mean, I'm telling you, these masters that I'm studying, it's simple. You just pick it up and boom, here's how you get out. Boom.
Right.
Here's how you escape Plato's cave. Here's how you transcend this world.
Right.
I mean, and then you open the Bible and it's like you got to put the code together and figure out the symbolism,
Right.
decipher the parable and all that nonsense. It's like, why? Why do I have to do that?
Well, another thing I'll bring up too is, and I know you were Pentecostal as I was also. The whole thing of the baptism of the Holy Spirit in the way that we experience this does not fit in within the way the New Testament talks about. Oh, sure, there's portions that you can find, but when you take down the experiences that we had within the tongues issue and the worship, and I don't mean just singing the music, raising your hands, but getting lost within that, you cannot find that within the written script of that New Testament, because I don't think it fits in there, to be honest with you. I think it is a totally Gnostic thing that happens. Yeah. And they're trying to fit it in there because it don't work in Acts. I don't care what you say, it don't work.
Yeah. If you're having a light experience and going beyond the mind,
right,
you're escaping the demiurge.
Right. The demiurge has to trap you inside of it to not let you know that freedom that you had there.
These early Pentecostals were having an experience. Why wouldn't they? They were knocking on the door. The door opened. Wow, So they had this experience. Now, the way that I teach with the Sikh masters, it's more subtle. You just go right here in the single eye,
right,
and you experience the higher planes within yourself as you meditate deeper and deeper. And then, of course, that reveals that God is not the author of this world as well.
Right.
In fact, let's get one thing straight for the viewers, brother, is that the world is just an image. So we're not against the world. What we are talking about transcending and escaping Plato's cave is the world mind. It's the world mind. So we're not saying we got to leave the world. We're saying we got to transcend the world mind.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? The world is meaning. It doesn't mean anything to me. I'm sorry. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. And I do believe everything here is a demonstration, a reflection of God's love, because God is animating everything here. Right. So God's design is here, but the demiurgic, or the rulers of this world, here's what the Gnostics teach, that the demiurge is the governor of this plane.
That's exactly right.
And the Bible says Satan is the god of this world. So he's been commissioned. It's his job to look. It's like, yes, I do believe that at some point the prime creator allowed us to come into manifestation, but then he gave us this demiurgic ruler to keep us here. And it's his job. It's like being in a haunted house. He's one of the demiurge is one of the characters in the haunted house that's supposed to scare you. It's his job. Yeah.
That's good.
They're doing a good job of it too.
Well, and if you notice, as you're talking about the press and the world, fear is the object that they use. And even in that little kids movie, Monster Inc. a few years ago, the monsters lived off of the energy of the screams and fear that they brought into children. Well, this is a perfect example of what we're seeing in today's world. We know something's happened. Yeah. We know they're fixing to shut the door on us. We know it's fixing to end. So are you going to live into that fear, or what are you going to do?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, and I think we've kind of concluded, especially recently, oh, my goodness, that the entertainments and the systems of this world worship the devil. Right. I mean, they're telling you that they worship Satan. Right. It's in the cartoons. It's in the media. Even the news, the lies and the deception. Well, Satan is the liar and the father of lies. Well, of course, they all worship the devil. And guess who the devil is? It's that God that they're praying to over at the Wailing Wall every time. Who else could it be? It's the God that created this. It's the God of the Abrahamic religions. Let me just say it.
It is an Abrahamic virus. I can't think of who I learned that from, but it's an Abrahamic virus. And once it's infected you, it takes almost everything to get rid of it, because it's a virus that once it's in, and you cannot see anything except from the concept of the Abrahamic view. And to me, I had to totally divorce myself of that to find any kind of freedom whatsoever.
That's right. That's right. And I do believe that even though God is evident in nature, we can see the sparkling light within everything here.
Yes.
That particular God, which we call the demiurge or Satan, you call it
Right.
whatever you want. In the Sikh tradition, they call it Kal.
Right.
This
Right.
thing is the ruler and the governor of this plane.
Correct.
Everybody, and it's been commissioned. Its job is to keep you here, and your job is to escape. That's the
Right.
name of it. And it's like a video game. It really is. It's like a game. So some people was telling me, this is not a trap anymore. This is a game. And I said, well, what if being in the trap is part of the game?
That's exactly right.
You know,
That character,
maybe the trap.
That character will never leave the game.
Right. That his job is to keep you here. Try to get out. Try to get out. See what happens.
You can't get out. You cannot get out.
Start doing Sharat Shab yoga with me. Get initiated by a real master.
Right.
Join a real Gnostic church somewhere, and you see what happens. They'll come after you. They'll come after you at every angle. Everything, the hordes of hell will come on you. And this was Buddha. Remember, during his enlightenment, he sat under the Bodhi tree. He put his hand on the earth and said, "The earth is my witness. I'm going home." And Mara, all the temptations. He had visions of bloodthirsty monsters and demons and everything. That
wild animals.
That's for us. That story is for us. Jesus went into the wilderness, and did not Satan come on and say, "I'll give you all the glories of the kingdom of this world"?
And what temptation was placed upon him.
He was talking about the glories of the kingdoms of this world is the money, the fame, the riches.
Right.
I'll make you a rock star. You know, you'll be a flat earth rock star. You know? And he was going to make him a flat earth rock star here, you know. And Jesus said, "No, I don't want to be a flat earth rock star. I want to be. My kingdom is not of this world."
That's what he said. So I don't give a poops about anything in this world.
Yeah. Did Jesus accept the kingdoms of this world when Satan offered them to him?
No.
What? How does anyone miss that, for God's sake?
I don't know. How do you miss that?
It breaks my heart, to be honest with you, how people would defend this world and claim to be your brother and spiritual, and then defend this world as if this is God's creation and God's will. No, Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world."
Right. Well, you even look at the early followers of James and Jesus, which we ain't getting into history. The Ebionites were the poor ones. They gave up this world. They gave up everything within this world, and they said, "We're going to live on the higher realm." Where did they miss that at? Where does that come from?
Yeah, did they miss it? No, they didn't. The Cathars, the Catholic
my
Church.
Favorite ones. My favorite. Thank you.
Now, I don't want to offend any Pope worshiping Catholics out there, but let me just say this: your church killed and murdered hundreds of thousands of Cathars. And why did they murder Cathars? Why did they kill the Cathar? And even today, you can't hardly find a Cathar on the earth, you know. And they wiped them off the earth
completely
because they rejected this world as the demiurge.
Yes.
And they believed an evil creator made this realm, and they wanted to go home.
That's right.
They couldn't have that in the Catholic as a competition.
No, they could not. Because the Cathars were actually growing too at the time.
Yeah, because the Pope wants to rule this world, you know.
Right.
So it was a conflict of interest, you know. Here one church wants to rule the world, and the other church wants to get out of the world and escape. You know. And why do people have a problem with the word escape? When you say escape, don't say escape anymore. I'm like, why not? Why would you not want to escape a trap? It's not a trap. It's not a trap. Okay, try to get out.
That's
try
right.
to get out.
That's right.
Let's go.
Right. I agree with you. I don't see what the problem is. You know, and I guess, you know, to wrap this up really, because I mean we've got, I think, our point across here. But the fact is, and I know Amar's the same way. We have probably gone. We are probably worse than the Israelites, walking around the mountains 16 years, knowing what we're supposed to do, but we didn't do I didn't do what I was supposed to do because I was so busy in initiation and learning different things. And it finally comes to a point like Buddha. It's so simple. We just got to do this. And you know, and Amar and I, myself, we're focused now. And it's amazing now that we're focused, we're getting attacked. Where before nobody ever attacked me before. I'm a
Yeah.
small channel. I'm not nowhere near as big as Amar. But the fact of the matter is we we are on to something. I know we are. I don't think we are. I know we're on to something that many masters before us has taught this. Buddha,
Yeah.
Jesus, that's all in the Gnostic Gospels. It's all in the writings and stuff like that. And I think it's just time because I do believe in myself that something big's fixing to happen. There's fixing to be a shift in this world. And
Okay.
Howie says the same thing. Amar says the same thing.
Yeah. 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 And can we keep going a little bit longer?
Yes, yes,
Maybe
yes,
for an
yes,
hour?
yes, yes,
Howdy Mikowski's book, Exit the Cave.
yes.
You know, this is what I teach. I've been teaching this before Howdy Mikowski ever put it into print.
Right.
I mean, I was happy to see this because I was like, okay, all right, Howdy Mikowski's on to it. So, and
right.
I really didn't see the need to revive this until after COVID and all this nonsense.
Nonsense.
PSYOP. And
Right.
so, man, the last 2 years truly demonstrated to me, brother,
Woo.
that what runs this, what's in the background of this world plane,
Right.
is definitely not our friend.
No.
It's not
No.
our friend. And yeah, and what could that possibly be? And so I had to revisit the Gnostics, and Howdy Mikowski did a great job of doing that in his book Exit the Cave. There it is.
I just got it. I just opened it up while you were talking because it just came in. So that's why when you said
Excellent
that,
book. I highly recommend it for anyone on the Gnostic path. Because if you're a Gnostic, yeah, that's a good one there too, brother.
that's one you recommended also.
That's a Hindu version of Jesus Christ, which makes
Yes.
a lot more sense.
Right.
Like I said, Christianity has been Judaized.
Yes.
And you know, and I mean, nothing against the Jewish people. I love them. You're Jewish, you know. I mean, I have no problem. That's beautiful. I don't have a problem with that at all. But the Zionist movement to create a world utopia and
right.
And yeah, man, I don't know about all that because now you're getting into the plan. Again, the last 2 years, you have seen this world, this whole psyop come on us, which is clearly revealed that something else is in the background.
Correct. Correct.
Now, what is the only people that I know that explain what that something else is are the Gnostics.
Yes.
And when I say Gnostic, I'm including the Radhiswami saints of the Sant Mat tradition, because they were Gnostic. The Sufis, they were Gnostic. The early Zoroastrians, again, Mani and the Manichaeans, these people explained exactly what's governing this plane.
Yes.
And then you bring it up in your very own Bible, pop it open, love not the world, neither the things in the world. Yeah. The God of this world has blinded the minds of the people. Remember that? The God of this world has blinded them. Who is this God of this world that this Bible is talking about? Who is this God of this world? Well, I think we now know it's the false creator of this plane that is that all the religions worship subsequently.
Right.
That you cannot escape unless you escape your own mind.
Right.
If you can escape your mind through the process of meditation and transformation, then you will attain those Gnostic planes and reach higher levels of light, and you will leave this earth experience once and for all.
Well, Amar, you teach this, you see this, and Jesus said the same thing. Your master is in here. Your master is right in here. Your master is right here. Jesus says, or Paul said, you have no need that any man teach you. That don't mean get instructions, but that does mean that you have a master in here that is ready to take you to where you need to go. And Jesus even said, if they tell you I'm in the wilderness or I'm over here or I'm over here, don't go, because he says the kingdom of God is within. And I don't see what's so hard about that personally, but
that's right. And master just means someone who has realized the truth and has overcome their weaknesses and tendencies. That's
Right.
all master. It's so there's a lot of masters that's been born into the physical world that actually
Right.
experienced this with us. And
Right.
even today, so what we're doing over at the Gnostic Order of Buddha Messiahs is we're opening up an invitation for all to come because we're living at that last day.
Right.
See, it was Buddha's goal to actually enlighten as many minds as he could while he was here on this earth. And
Right.
so that we could awaken this thing and return ourselves back away from the dream. I
Right.
mean, ultimately,
Nightmare.
what you realize is this world does not even exist because
Right.
you ultimately realize this is a cosmic dream in the mind of the one.
Right.
It's the whole goal is to awaken back to that one. So
Right.
Buddha wanted to do this because he felt that if he got enough minds awakened, that it would transform the earth plane.
Right.
And we would return back where there's no death, no sickness, no disease. And that didn't happen. But today, there's an opportunity, a portal, because we've entered into the last days on this earth plane. We've entered into the age of Kali Yuga. That is the end of the age of Kali Yuga.
Right.
So now we have an open portal, an open invitation to become the Buddha Messiahs here that Buddha wanted to establish here many years ago.
Right.
Jesus Christ also wanted to build this church that would awaken this entire plane back to its original home. I mean, all the masters, brother, have all agreed that this world is not our home.
Right.
Surely we can agree on that. If we can't agree on that, then there's nothing else we have in common about it.
No, I agree. I agree.
All of them have said that this world, we're in an alien world here. And the goal of liberation is to return back to our true home. And this is what we're doing over at the Order of Buddha Messiahs. The Gnostic Order of Buddha Messiahs is because nothing else was working for me. I was trying to teach on these other platforms and no one was really hearing me. You had to speak their language. You couldn't really go too deep into Gnosticism. You'd be rejected. So
Right.
I figured, look, let me just bless them. They are where they are. People are where they're at. You can't change others, people,
Right.
In the world. Don't seek to change people, but you can change your mind. And
Right.
so I changed my mind. And I decided I'm going to stand in this truth out of the mercy and justice of God, to stand for truth alone and invite everyone into the Gnostic Order of Buddha Messiahs.
Right.
It's free of charge. We don't charge anything for the initiation. It's a beautiful experience with like minds. And the main thing is, this is our opportunity, Brother Michael. This is our chance. And I would say it's our last chance.
I think so. And I think the thing is interesting is I know when we first started, it was me, you, your wife, and Marlene. There was 3 or 4 of us. And now when you go on there, it fills the screen up twice. There's so many people that are awakening to this that wasn't ready before, but it just seems like the timing. And this is just not our opinion about this being the last of the age. You can go to any of the masters now that are on YouTube, and they'll tell you the same thing. It's here. The apocalypse of, not the one that the church is teaching, but the apocalypse of this age it's closing, and
it is.
There's not much time.
That's what I'm saying about it. Those who want to defend the world and get angry at us for wanting to escape the matrix. Goodness gracious, how long do you plan on being here? I mean, come on. I mean, even if the world continued, you're not.
No, I mean, you're going to go. You're going to leave this world.
You better find a solution that transcends this world. Now, here's the thing: when you're born into this world, you're initiated at birth because you're born into this world.
Right.
As soon as you're born, they stab your little foot, and they may whack off your private parts. Horrible. It's my God. Is that not enough for you to tell you that you're in hell? I mean, come on. They start poking holes in you, immediately start putting vaccines in. I mean, good God Almighty. And so now I know I'm in hell at that point. And so from that point on, I'm looking for a way out.
Yeah.
And then when I meet other brothers, they're going, no, stay inside the dome with me. Stay inside this matrix with me, brother. Is what I hear people saying. I'm like, hey, no way, man. I'm
But
leaving. But I'm going to take as much love I
yes,
can with me.
yes,
I'm
yes,
not escaping. I'm not escaping God. I'm escaping hell.
right. And try and take those with you as you can. But you know, you're right. They say the birthing experience for a baby is
It's
one of the
horrible.
most intense, horrible experience of that kid when the baby comes through. The pressures and the disjoining of the bones and stuff. And like you said, first thing you do when you get out, sometimes they have to slap you to get you to, not slap you, but and then
Yeah,
like you
and they
said,
slap you.
instantly they start putting vaccines and stuff like that with, in you, shots
Right
and
there.
all this kind of stuff that we didn't have years ago. We didn't have all that stuff back then. But
Horrible. Yeah.
this is the new world.
Yeah. And so here you are. You done been abused when you were like 1 day old.
Yeah.
By the time you're 10 days old, you really done had it. And then they stick you into an education system, and 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 then you got to watch everyone die, and
Yes.
then you grow old, and then you're sitting
Yes.
in a nursing home somewhere. You done lost your wife. Your wife been dead years ago, and you're in a nursing home. I mean, come on, man. Tell me that this is God's design. I don't think so.
It don't sound desirable to me, be honest with you.
Well, I tell you, with a God like that, who needs a devil? It's like, come on. And
It don't make sense.
and it's kind of blasphemous too, is why I kind of look at it. Because if you're accusing God of murder, old age, sickness, death, which is basically accusing God of being a murderer,
Right.
then you're basically accusing God's nature of being like that of humans.
Right.
No. The ultimate God transcends duality, transcends good and evil, transcends this world.
Non-duality. Right.
And he's calling us home, calling us home. That's what I feel every
Right.
night, every day. I feel the call. And if you can't feel the call, there's nothing anyone can do for you until you do.
Right. Right. Because like
This
you
is
said,
why,
we're leaving this world one way or another.
yeah. And like I said, I've been initiated all the way up through the masturbation degrees and all that. And all of these things were rituals symbolic of this.
Right.
But it is only within the way of the saints, that is the way of the Radha Swamis, that I teach now. It was only the direct experience of meditation that I actually had the mystical experience of attaining those levels.
Right.
Whereas, like the mystery schools that everybody thinks is so cool is just ritualistic and symbolic.
Right.
The actual practice of inner light and sound and going through the degrees of the different planes, that's an actual experience.
Correct. Correct.
You see, there's a big difference between a symbol, a ritual, and the actual experience.
Right.
So the way of the Buddha Messiahs is to go beyond ritual, beyond symbolism, and go to a direct experience union with God. True yoga.
My favorite thing you ever said when we first met is you talked about you went through all of this initiation, all these schools, and then when you're going to get old enough, you're going to get Alzheimer's and not remember anything that you learned.
Well, is it not so? It's true.
It's
right?
very true. I've forgotten most of the stuff I've learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you better hurry if you're going to enjoy the world, because it ain't going to be here much longer.
No, especially the way we know it now.
And if the world is here, you won't be. That's for sure.
Correct.
So what is it for? What is it for? It's for liberation. It's so you can come here and meet your master, and that'll always be your teacher. Whatever path you're on, God will send his representatives to you.
Right.
And I would be happy to be that representative for anyone, because I always speak for my inner master.
Absolutely.
I never speak for Amor Russell. I speak for the light, that shab, that sound current, that divine essence. This is what speaks. And I welcome all. And when I met my master, Brother Michael, first thing he said to me is, "What do you want?" And it was cold, dead silence. And immediately, without even thinking, my hands came together like that. And I said, "Peace."
Right.
And that was the right answer. I was almost like my inner soul, my spirit, my divine spark was doing that. Peace. I want peace. And then before I could even think about it, I had said the word peace. And the next night, I went to a movie and seen the Matrix 3, the trilogy.
Yes.
And I was sitting there, and I had told my friend about this experience with my master. And we were sitting in this theater, and all of a sudden, on the screen, Neo is blindfolded, and he's brought to the machines, and the machines rise up and say, "What do you want?"
Right.
And Neo says, "You know what he says?
Peace.
Peace."
Peace.
He made peace with the demiurge right there.
Yes, he did.
So when I went through Freemasonry, brother, in that third degree, when they took off the blindfolds and I saw the blazing star, in my mind, I was making peace with the demiurge. I was merged with the machine.
Right.
They tell you that the great architect, that's what the demiurge is, the great architect of the universe.
Absolutely.
So you do have to make peace with this thing, because if you don't make peace with the demiurge, or that is the world mind, the peace, then you're not going to make peace within your own mind.
No.
And if you don't do that, you keep coming back, you keep recycling, and it never ends until you do.
Right.
What do you want? That's what I'd ask your viewers today, brother. What do you want?
Right.
What do you want? And if you want anything other than liberation, total peace, because the only way to peace is to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. If you want anything other than to get off the wheel of birth and death and karma and all that, if you want anything else, then you're not ready.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. You have to want this above all else, like a man with his hair on fire, seeking water.
Right. Yeah, and everyone is invited on Sunday night, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central, to come meditate with us, and he'll share a short message, something to edify, and then everybody has a chance to speak their piece. But I highly recommend it, because it's a fellowship. This world's not perfect. We all live miles apart, but there's at least one moment at a time. And then when you're initiated, we have practice sessions during the week that he'll throw up there, no particular time. And we come together and we just meditate. And it's a beautiful experience. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And we have a goal. The goal is to disengage the soul, the divine spark, from identification with the body and the mind.
Right.
If you can disengage the soul from the body and the mind, then you can start your path.
Right.
That's just the beginning of the path.
That's it.
From there, you can go. You can free.
Right.
The demiurge cannot hold you anymore. He has to let you go.
Nope.
This is what we're about: getting out of the demiurgic planes and awakening back to our home, our true home.
That's right.
So everyone is welcome. Everyone is definitely welcome.
Right. Well, I do thank you for your time today with this, and I think it's an invitation sent out to everybody. And like you said, there's no fees, there's no formal religion here, there's no holy books per se. Although we do recommend a lot of books out there, but the thing is we're just offering what we're achieving ourselves, and that's liberation in this craziness that we're living in today. And if you can't see there's craziness, turn on the news and you'll hear it.
Yeah. And I would say get out of the Bible. Get out of the Bible. Actually, find a true teacher, a real teacher that has attained God consciousness, and listen to him. Jesus is gone. He left the earth plane. He left them, and now he's sending all of his representatives here right now, and they're right in front of you. They're speaking to you, and here we are. We're delivering the message. We're embodied. We're on the earth, so we can help you. And I'm not saying that there's no truth in the Bible. I'm just saying I have found I have never met a fundamentalist Christian enlightened.
No.
I've never met a Bible believing Christian enlightened. Never.
No.
But I have met many of them that want to argue with you.
and judge you.
I've never, I've read about enlightened Christians, but I've never met one. That's for sure. Well, because that book was designed to keep you from enlightenment.
It's a trap.
Yeah. Now, if you take one verse or two verses and go sit in a corner for the next 3 years and meditate on those verses, I guarantee you'll probably wake up.
Right.
But if you take that whole book and start studying it and like trying to figure it, put the Old Testament with the New, you're just going to confuse yourself.
You're lost.
It's designed for that. That's was designed to do that to you.
Jesus said that I must go away, for if I don't, I cannot send you the comforter. And
Yeah.
that's what we teach, is that I say, Master, the teacher within you is the Holy Spirit. And he is
Yes.
wanting to teach you, but and Amar's wanting to teach you how to get to the Holy Spirit. So we're teaching the true Holy Spirit teachings, what we're trying to tell you.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit's within you. Yeah, you notice Jesus didn't write no books either.
No,
so
I never had no writings. No
all
writings.
that came later. Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
But
Well,
yeah, I
again,
highly recommend. And if you're going to read the Apostle Paul, I just want to tell you right now, and I hate to break it to you, but Paul was a Gnostic.
yes, he was.
They polluted Paul. What you get in your King James Bible about Paul is so distorted, so mixed up, so confused that they make it look like he's just a continuation of Old Testament prophecy or
That's
something.
it. That's
But
it.
no, you read this book. If you don't believe me, Elaine Pagels did a pretty good job of
She
it.
did. She did.
Yep. And she points out that no, this guy was a Gnostic through and through.
Yep.
He tried to disguise it a little bit here and there, but yeah, that's so I go with Paul when I read the Bible. That's
Absolutely.
He's the only one I listen to.
Right. He is. He would be the only one too.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, I thank you for your time today, and we hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, if you're interested in attending the Sunday night classes, or if you're interested in initiation to a higher consciousness, a higher understanding, get with me. We'll put the information down below this video in YouTube, and feel free to contact Amar, and we hope to see you soon on Sunday night. That'd be a great thing. So until next time, Amar, thank you so much.
All right. And awake from the dream. That's what it's all about.
Please wake up. Don't push the snooze button. Wake up.
And don't make the dream real.
No,
the
dream's not real.
That's one subject we didn't cover, but that's a big one.
Yeah, that's the next video. Next video.
Okay.
Thank y'all so much. Have a great day.
Peace. Bye-bye, beloved. Thank you.